My wife and I have been married 30 years. I am 50, my wife is 51. I own an air conditioning business and my wife owns her hair salon. We are both hard-working and have done well for ourselves. We have 2 kids, a daughter who is 21 and a son who is 23. They are both out of the house. My wife has always been trustworthy. She has never done anything in the 3 decades. We have been married to make me think twice about her fidelity. She was always where she said she was going to be, and she always came home when she said she would. She would always notify me if she was coming home late from the salon. But this year in 2022 things started to change, little subtle changes, but I took notice her attire started to change a tad bit. She was coming home like an hour or 2 later, but that wasn't the part that bothered me. It was her not notifying me and letting me know that she has always done in years past. So one day she came home from the salon, she came in, greeted me like she normally does and said she had to use the bathroom. She ran into the master bedroom where our bathroom is. After about 20 minutes, it dawned on me that she was still in the bathroom. I didn't say anything. It sounded like she was whispering and the only words I heard were, "I will see you tonight, sweetie." At that point, I knew we didn't have any plans. So I thought maybe she was going to see one of our kids. So I grabbed my phone and texted both of my kids and asked them, are they planning to see their mother this evening? Both of my kids said no. They hadn't talked to their mom in a few weeks. After talking to my kids, I started to get suspicious and then I started following her. I would take off from work early and follow her to see what she was up to. I had different work vans. So she didn't know who was driving the vans. Most days she would go to the salon, but there were days that she would go somewhere else like the mall or a clothing store. I never said anything to her about my suspicions because I didn't want to upset her or start an argument. And I wanted to make sure I had some solid proof. If any of her doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing on my 4th day of following her. I noticed she drove over 30 minutes to a neighboring city. When I saw this, I thought, where is she going? But when she pulled into the hotel, my heart started racing. I pulled into the hotel parking lot and took out my phone. I didn't get out. I started recording. But to my surprise, she never went past the front desk. It looked like she was talking to the woman behind the desk. Then she came out, got into her car and left. I waited about 5 minutes after her. Then I left on the way back to my shop. My wife sent me a text saying I'm going to be working late tonight. So don't wait up for me. I thought something was up. She just left the hotel and is now telling me she will be working late again. The next thing I did when I got back to my shop, I went online to check my credit card statements for the last 3 months. I wanted to see if she had ever used any of my credit cards to pay for this hotel. And there were no charges on any of the 4 credit cards that I have. So I was a little stumped. She has her own credit cards. So I had no way of knowing. The only thing I could do was wait and see what she was up to. I felt she was cheating, but I had no proof that she was cheating or had cheated. I was going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she had business in that city or she was meeting with a friend. But why all the secrecy? That following weekend we had plans to go out of town with some friends to a cabin. My wife told me she had to work late on Friday and she would meet me at the cabin. I didn't want to go by myself. So I told her I would just wait for her. Well, my wife was a no-show. She didn't call or text, nothing. So I went by the hair salon. It was dark and appeared to be closed, but I saw her car in the parking lot. So I started walking around to the back of her salon, and that is when I saw her. She was in the back in a secluded area in the back of her salon with some young guy kissing him, embracing him, and this guy was all over her. I couldn't believe my eyes. I felt like I was going to be sick. I wanted to confront her, but I also wanted to get proof. So I took out my phone and started recording. Well, they must have heard me because the guy stopped kissing her, but my wife kept embracing him. She finally looked in my direction, and that is when I confronted her. She tried to give me an excuse, but I laughed and just walked off on the way to my car. I called my friends. We were supposed to go to with the cabin with and cancelled. I was so upset. I couldn't even speak. I drove home, and when I got home, I packed a small bag and left. I went to a hotel to stay for a few days to get my head together. My wife called and texted me numerous times, but I didn't respond. I didn't want anything to do with her. The next day I decided to take the day off and call some divorce lawyers to see what divorce would have in store for me. But I got a strange phone call from one of my wife's friends. My wife's friend wanted to know where I was. I told her I was okay and I didn't want to disclose my location. Then she said she has something to tell me. I interrupted her and told her I already know that my wife was cheating on me. I called her. My wife's friend said that's not the first time my wife has cheated on me. I said, What are you talking about? She tells me that my wife had a one-night stand the day before our wedding. I said, no way. You're kidding. She said, no, I'm not. She told me everything. My wife was so drunk. She doesn't even remember who the guy was. I said, are you sure? My wife's friend told me that my wife begged her not to say anything. I said to her, why wait 30 years later to tell me? She said because my wife told her if I ever found out she would lose me forever. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I was hearing after that conversation. I called a divorce attorney. I asked the attorney for advice about finances. The only thing would be the house and the cars, no alimony because she makes almost as much as I make, and no child support because the kids are grown. I decided to stay in the hotel for a few more days. I needed time to think about everything. I called my wife and told her I knew about the one-night stand in addition to catching her cheating on me, and that I wanted a divorce and had already conferred with an attorney. The attorney said, since she had her own business, alimony wouldn't be an issue. She makes almost as much as I do. I make just over $150,000 per year, and my soon-to-be ex-wife makes about $140,000 per year. I tried to settle this on my own. I told my soon-to-be ex-wife that we just needed to sell the house and split the proceeds. My wife wanted to keep the house and said she would buy me out. I told her I was okay with that. I told her I didn't want to drag this out. I said, give me $150,000. The house had over $400,000 in equity. So I told her I wanted $150,000 and she could keep the house. My wife agreed at the divorce hearing. Both of our lawyers agreed that she would pay me $150,000. When the house sold, our kids were devastated and my daughter thought I was being unreasonable and didn't believe her mother cheated. So I sent her a video clip of me catching her mother. Then I told my daughter. Her mother's best friend came forward and told me her mother had a one-night stand the day before our wedding and swore her to secrecy. That was 3 months ago. The house has since sold and I got my $150,000. My ex-wife has been trying to reach out to me, but I don't want anything to do with her. Since then. My daughter has since alienated her mother and she did apologize for not believing me. My son also doesn't speak to his mother. I did tell my kids they can't hold a grudge against their mother forever. As for my ex-wife's best friend, they no longer speak. Her friend told me she lost respect for my ex-wife for what she did. Fast forward another week. My daughter calls me and tells me that my ex-wife was diagnosed with cancer. But the doctors say it's treatable. I'm conflicted about what to do. On one hand, I don't want my ex-wife to suffer. But on the other hand, I won't forgive her for what she did. My daughter pleads with me to reach out to my ex-wife and help her through this difficult time. But I don't know if I can. I know I have to practice what I preach and I need to forgive my ex-wife. But it's hard. I eventually forgave my ex-wife and told her I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing it for our daughter and myself because holding on to this anger was eating me up inside. Anyway, thank you for getting this far. I have never shared anything about my life in a public forum, in my opinion. I think he did the right thing. He followed her, got his evidence and filed for divorce in a situation like this. We tend to hold on to anger even after the relationship has ended. Most of, cheaters don't make good decisions. That is evident. But as the betrayed partner, you don't need to hold on to the resentment. Long term, move on with your life and enjoy it. Of course, it will sting, but time heals all wounds. Some just take a little longer to heal. Also, marriages that last a decade or longer